Welcome back to the show, everybody. Check out these headlines here. The plan to save the US dollar. Oh my goodness, that and the UniParty. What's it all mean? Somebody roll that beautiful intro so we can find out.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show. You can follow us on Twitter, YouTube, and digperspectives.com for exclusive content. And you're going to want to join us in the Freedom Zone today for the UniParty. The stage is being set, ladies and gentlemen. $2.72 trillion market cap for crypto. The market is up 0.2%. 68,000 plus for Bitcoin. 3,800 plus for Ethereum. 111 billion plus market cap for USD Tether at the moment. Number 8 spot is XRP at 52 cents. It's up 0.3 on the 24, but we're off by 2.3, just like most of the rest of the market here on the 7-day. We'll keep an eye on it. Range of price between 52 54 cents. We'll keep an eye on it. What I want to tell you about is the best private equity in the world, ladies and gentlemen. You need to know it because it's going fast. Remember when I told you about Cerberus last week? It's gone. This is what I'm saying. The opportunities are remarkable, ladies and gentlemen. Over 775,000 registered users right now and over 81 companies available. Let me just tell you, Uphold, Kraken, Ripple, Anthropic, which is an amazing AI opportunity. Look, there's so many things on here. You need to go and check it out. Click the link to my sponsor below and don't mess around. The private equity doesn't last long and you never know when it'll be the last time that they can get it. So make sure you click the link to my sponsor and get some today. Don't miss this today real quick at XSpace. That's right here on Twitter. You'll be able to see it pinned at the top of my profile or Digital Asset Investor. Both he and I will be going live today on XSpace at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. You won't want to miss it. And we're going to start doing this weekly too. And this is going to be a way for us to open up our conversations and it's going to be a blast. So we have some great stuff in store. I hope you will start to join us at 12 p.m. on Tuesdays. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right, here we see, I want to give a big shout out again to the DC Blockchain Summit and the Digital Chamber for putting it on. It was a remarkable event, and it was extra special to have the opportunity to speak with Carlos Domingo, the CEO and founder of Securitize. Big things are coming for them in the entire digital asset space. Securitize is and will be a leader in this digital asset revolution. In this interview, we covered not only all the incredible things that Securitize has gone through to get to where they are today to be a leader, but also the fact that they're being recognized by BlackRock with their BUIDL tokenized fund with over $300 million being tokenized in that BlackRock fund. So this is pretty remarkable seeing all of this take place in such a short period of time, 6 years. And I did make the joke at the end. Well, there you have it. Overnight success. It only took 6 years. Shout out to Carlos and all the incredible things they're doing. We hope to get him on the channel sometime soon as well. So shout out to the Digital Chamber for that. Here we see Gensler is a political liability. You could say that again. And 71 Dems voting in favor of the FIT21 Act proves this. Well, we're going to talk about something else today that hasn't got a lot of attention, but I want you to hear, it's not this whole clip, so you can breathe a sigh of relief, but I do want to play a piece of this for you, and it's the first minute or so, so take a listen to this about Gary Gensler and where we are here.
The one thing I have to say, and as I was reading these different documents and statements the last couple of days, I have to say my favorite document, probably in a negative way, was a statement by SEC Chair Gary Gensler. He made a document called Statement on the Financial Innovation and Technology for the 21st Century Act. In there, I highly recommend to the listeners to read the statement that Chair Gensler made, but I have to read one line in there that says, I quote, many market participants in the crypto industry, however, have shown their unwillingness to comply with applicable laws and regulations for more than a decade, variously arguing that the laws do not apply to them or that a new set of rules should be created and retroactively apply to them to excuse their past conduct. Personally, I find this very interesting. I would love, first of all, to get your views on how common is it for a SEC chair to comment on a piece of legislation issued by the House or any of the arms of Congress.
Listen, I don't think I'm breaking ground here. It's very unusual. And I think it's particularly unusual to come out against a bill. You will oftentimes see a bill get proposed and then the chair of the CFTC, the SEC, or whoever is the relevant agency, to say, we support this bill. It's a little bit unusual for an agency chair to come out and say, I oppose this bill. And you know, the idea that, there is regulatory clarity and folks know what to do and they're just deciding not to. I think it's been proven not to be true over and over and over again in various venues. You look at the court cases that have come out, the courts can't figure this out. They have contradicting decisions about whether or not certain digital assets are securities or commodities. You see different agencies like the New York State Attorney General's office can't figure out if Ether is a security or a commodity. And look at the answers from the chair of the SEC when testifying in front of Congress as to whether or not Ether is a security. And that's really all you need to know about how to do the analysis, which is there isn't an analysis. They'll tell you when they decide what it is. And that's not how regulatory policy is ever supposed to work. You're supposed to be given notice and an understanding of how the rules apply and how they work, particularly from a definitional perspective. And when you have the chair of the CFTC saying ETH is a commodity and therefore derivative contracts based upon Ether are regulated by the CFTC, and then you have the SEC, you tell me, what is their answer on whether or not Ether is a commodity? And I think the answer is they're unwilling to say out loud, or at least publicly. And so that makes for a process that market participants there's no lane to go in, even if you really want to comply and decide what to do. Because if you go to the CFTC, if it's a security, you still have, you've gone down the wrong path. And so, again, what this bill is trying to do is create those pathways. We'll see how things turn out as it goes to the Senate, but it's a great starting point to create some of those pathways.
It is a great starting point, and that was over the FIT21 Act and what Gary Gensler had to say about that, right, basically brushing it off. But there's another piece of legislation I want to remind everyone of, and it was the Blockchain Competitiveness Act, right? The American Blockchains Act of 2023 passed the House earlier before the FIT21, and it got almost zero attention. And the reason that I wanted to highlight this as a part of the conversation is because even though it passed the House, it's still a big deal because it's got to go to the Senate. But the reason I bring that up is because if you look at this bill very quickly here, it gives authority to the Secretary of Commerce, the Department of Commerce, to take actions necessary and appropriate to promote the competitiveness of the United States related to deployment, use, application, competitiveness of blockchain and other distributed ledger technology, and for other purposes, right? So this is important to understand because we know that this is also tied to the U.S. Treasury, because I wanted to go back and check. Both Department, U.S. Treasury and Department of Commerce are connected at the hip. Shout out to Big Skinny for reminding all of us of this one. I touched it lightly right before the weekend, but I'm going to hit it again here. In summary, the U.S. Treasury and Department of Commerce are both actively involved in initiatives to leverage blockchain and distributed ledger technology to improve government services, promote technological innovation, and address the challenges and opportunities posed by digital assets. So even though this Blockchain Competitiveness Act, which went through and it says Department of Commerce, by proxy, the U.S. Treasury is up to its neck in all of this, as we had believed for a very long time. How many times did we report on here that Janet Yellen was working on stablecoin legislation to inform Congress? And it's backwards. Treasury's not supposed to be writing legislation, right? So it's all because of things like this. India and China agreed to ditch the US dollar for imports. More BRICS coalition partners agreeing to pull away from the US dollar. Looks like everything is falling into place for XRP to complement the system. This digital asset class and XRP has always been designed to deal with the onset of new technology and to take the spillover shocks off of the US dollar as the global reserve currency, which I spelled wrong. Typo. Prepare for the greatest financial paradigm shift in the history of mankind. Because if you don't, you're going to be dancing with a Chinese yuan, a surveillance tool. Who in the hell wants to do that? Not me. But if you introduce XRP in between the system, here's the thing. But so many people are exhausted. So many people are tired. As if they've been the ones that are responsible for building the financial system. And it isn't. Most people who've gotten tired are people who have put imaginary timelines on this entire movement. And when it hasn't happened according to their own faux timelines, they become exhausted. Right? I urge everybody to think clearly. Take a deep breath. Assess why you're here. Because I think we're closer now than ever to getting a market that we all need. USD Tether reported $4.52 billion in Q1 profit. Take a listen to this clip.
This technology being more and more adopted and more experimented with. And then moving on finally to some of the incumbents that we track from month to month. Tether put out its Q1 earnings, said that they made $4.5 billion in profit in a singular quarter. And as far as I understand, their employee count is somewhere around 125. So it's quite an astounding number. Again, I think the portfolio that they have would look quite different than what we have here in terms of what is backing a stable token. But again, this is, they have gone more into the treasury side of things of late. So,
which is new, right? As he highlights. But I want to show you this. With Mika incoming, Tether needs to be encouraged to properly audit so they aren't pushed further underground. U.S. Tether being removed from all exchange will make it harder to regulate and encourage further nefarious use cases. This was all on the heels of Kraken saying they were actively reviewing the plans to possibly remove the support for Tether. Kraken came out and said, we have no intentions of doing so. I want to be fully clear on that. But we also know this.
So these are like the two dates we mentioned. June.
This is about Micah and June, 1 month from today, damn near. Micah regulations start to begin for clarity.
So these are like the two dates we mentioned. June, which is in 2.5 months, just to be very transparent. For the two asset classes that we mentioned. So basically, if you're a stablecoin issuer, when we talk about e-money tokens, so e-money tokens issuers, and for also the art tokens, it's coming into effect in June. So in 2.5 months,
which is now 1 month. So now there's all kinds of compliance and framework and reporting and things that have to be done. We'll see what happens here. I want to play you this clip right here. It's XRP Drop sharing a clip that I did not long ago. It's relevant, and I've got more. Take a listen. This here is a clip, just a comment here from Eric Van Miltenberg from Ripple, and he says that stablecoin is a natural extension of what we're trying to do, and I love it. He says here, he explains the introduction of stablecoins and other blockchains like Polygon in the past have increased the level of total value locked on the chain, improving trust in the blockchain. These stablecoins are an important ongoing ramp and off-ramp into the system. He says it's kind of a rising tide. It lifts all boats. Introducing high-quality stablecoins into the XRP Ledger ecosystem is going to be good for that community and will be good for XRP as well. And if we see the United States government and the Secret Service, which is already working hand in hand with Tether, shut Tether down, couldn't we be watching a flood of that market cap of 10 billion plus pour into the legitimate regulated stable coins and network and ecosystem? And voila, you have the regulated Internet of Value, right? It's worth thinking about. I'm not saying it'll happen, but if I were a government and I wanted to harness this space and this technology, smashing and crushing Tether and forcing their reserves into regulated entities like USDC, which just recently moved back to the States so they wouldn't be looked at like Tether, and the launch of the Ripple stablecoin, which is obviously going to be highly transparent. That's how Ripple rolls. You could drive that market cap from Tether right into two highly regulated stablecoins, and off we go. I don't know if that'll happen. Maybe they just make Tether come underneath the umbrella of regulation, and maybe there's a fine or something, or not even. and they're good to go at that point. I don't know. But I know one thing. Brad Garlinghouse is not wrong when he says that the U.S. government is, in fact, targeting Tether. They are.
The players in that space, particularly one called Tether, is a non-U.S. based entity. And the U.S., frankly, is kind of going after that because they want this to be regulated. Just yesterday, there's a new bill introduced in the Senate to create some stablecoin legislation, which I think is a positive step of like, hey, finally, we might get some forward momentum there. But I think that market's going to grow a lot. I think a U.S.-based player who is compliance first has a great role to play.
It's a great.
There you have it. Compliance first. Then I want you to hear this. This is the United States Undersecretary of the Treasury for Domestic Finance, Nellie Liang, hitting all the key words here. Shout out to Subjective Views. Give them a follow.
What is the scope for banks in all of this? And you know, it's a area of significant uncertainty because it is relatively nascent. What do you believe to be the potential scope for the institutions that are inside this very traditional and very rigorous parameter?
Yeah. So I think there's the technology that could be adopted by banks for certainly for their internal use, right? And we know of examples where banks are using distributed ledger technology, blockchain-based kind of technology to improve their internal systems. I could imagine that banks could offer stablecoins or some version of like deposits that are like stablecoins. So I think the goal of any legislation would be to allow both banks and non-banks to offer, or new non-banks, payment kind of entities to offer this service.
Loving that for us. Well, you have to ask yourself, how far off base are we? Just look at the things that are happening. This is Christian, Carlo, and myself sitting on stage at XRP Las Vegas. Inflation, the money printing, we all in this room know that it's unsustainable. And we don't get an email when it hits that wall. There's a line in the sand when it comes to money. And this is so funny because as involved as the construct of the financial system is, there's an imaginary line in the sand called confidence. And once it's lost,
absolutely,
that piece of paper isn't worth anything.
That's right.
And what I see coming, and I want you to speak to this from just from the Digital Dollar Project. What I'm seeing is this unavoidable moment in the front of us, and there has to be someone at some point has to come forward and allow these new use cases to be happening, like stablecoins, private issuers, because I see like this hyperinflation moment. Now, I'm not trying to be an alarmist. I don't know whether it slides greatly or what's that scale look like. I can't tell you. But everybody knows that it's a high probability of happening. We just don't know how bad it gets, right? But if you introduce this ability for these new issuers to have a stable coin, then they are the ones that soak up like a sponge or a bulkhead that catch these hyperinflated dollars that are coming back home. Could you speak to that?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you put your finger on it. I think the biggest threat to the American way of life is government money printing.
Yeah.
Everyone here.
There you have it. Now, I tell you, if we see a new administration come in and Trump is elected, I think this guy could be the next SEC chairman. And I think this guy could bring the kind of leadership and effective direction to help unlock the innovation and the regulatory hurdles that are in front of us today. So the United States of America could not only be a leader in this fourth industrial revolution, but ensure that the right things are done and put into place from the SEC chair position to ensure that the U.S. dollar dominance is not impeded upon another second.
If you reach in your pocket and you have dollars there, 1 out of every 4 of those dollars was printed in the last 3 years. That means that if you had $100 3 years ago, it's worth 75 today. It's simply unsustainable. It's destroying the very fabric.
And there you have it. It is destroying the very fabric. Ladies and gentlemen, look, we're going into the Freedom Zone, and I want to discuss something else with you, and it's the UniParty. It is the capture of both parties in the United States of America. And we're going to discuss that right now, not financial advice from me or anyone else. I hope you'll go to digitalperspectives.com and click on the Freedom Zone and join for almost next to nothing. Help support the channel. We appreciate everything that you do here for us, and we appreciate that you allow us into your life every day. I do not take any of that for granted. This is a great way to support the channel. You get all the daily videos from YouTube, Google ad free. And we also have a private access to a Telegram group, and there are some great conversations in here, as well as extra content, just like what we're about to cover right now. I hope you'll join us. Come on in. All right.